Oh, okay, okay, because that song right there, um, Brother Brian reminded me of it the other day. And I used to listen to that song all the time. Brother Brian reminded me of it, and it immediately clicked. And I said, see, me and that song, we have a special vibration. And James Brown, he had a way of connecting with a lot of people. So I feel like I'm super bad and step back, want to kiss myself. I think that I think that we all should feel that way about ourselves. We shouldn't have no problem feeling good about ourselves. And in many ways, that's what this book is about, The Roots of a Tree, the genesis of a conscious conversation. I'm really glad that y'all chose to come out and hang out with us and deal with this book. Well, I'm gonna answer one question real quick. People keep saying, why do you have two covers? Why do you have two covers? Well, this is what had happened. When I first got this proof in the mail, I panicked because it was drab and it wasn't sexy, and I'd be trying to be sexy. So I was like, man, I have to create another cover, and because this is not going to get it. And believe it or not, I came up with this cover before the book was written. I mean, this cover has been, in my mindset before the book was written. So as soon as I got this in the mail and I was like, no, we got to do something else, I immediately started working on another cover. Then after I created the black and white cover, and I was like, can I see your book? When I created the black and white cover, I was like, that's the cover right there. That's the one. I'm good to go. So now I had the black and white cover. I'm good to go, right? But no. When you be wandering around at 4 o'clock in the morning, you start thinking of stuff. So I went back on the computer and I said, maybe if I turn the color up on the book and change it from matte finish to a glossy finish, it might look better. So then, 4 o'clock in the morning, I go on the computer and I turn the color up and I change it to a glossy finish. And then I got this one back in the mail and I said, oh, well, I'm going to have to go with two covers. So that's how it happened. Are y'all with me on that? So, but doesn't it make a big difference? Yeah, so that's how I ended up with two covers. I just wanted to get that straight for people who are asking and curious about it. So, this is actually my fifth book. And my first book was a book of Abe. Second book was Social Media Quotes for Black People Only, a lesson in judging a book by its cover. And that book in particular was created to instigate thoughts when people look at the cover and look at the title and look at how it's designed. And when they look in the book looking for all of these special things for black people, they'll find that the quotes were universal quotes that could benefit anybody who saw value in the quotes. So that book was a lesson in judging a book by its cover. Then there's there's a third book I wrote. I haven't put it out yet because it's a little bit heavy. And so I didn't put that book out yet, but it's laying in the cut. And then the fourth book I wrote called When Young People Speak, 100 Questions for Ages 13 to 30. And that's a book that I feel like all parents should have. If you got young people who are 30 and under, and you need to have conversation, I think it's in that 100 questions, there's some great questions to be conversation starters for parents and their young people. And then this is my fifth book, The Roots of a Tree, The genesis of a conscious conversation. So the roots of a tree is another thing that came up before the book was ever written, because I wanted an organic kind of book. I didn't want this sanitized how to have a conscious conversation. You know, I just wanted something more organic. So I came up with the title before I even wrote the book. And then the genesis of a conscious conversation, in my mind, in my thoughts, that is the foundation and origin of how to have a conversation, interactive conversation that is kind of productive, you know, and positive, instead of ending in conflict and confrontation. So the book took about almost 10 years. I took 2 trips to Jamaica, setting up the foundation of the book. I was up in Robbins Bay, St. Mary, twice up in the mountains. Jamaica is one of the countries that have adopted me. Trinidad is another country that has adopted me. And of course, the continent of Africa has adopted me as well. So when I'm wandering around, if my mouth is shut, people be trying to wonder, who is he? Where is he from? Who is this guy? I'll be like, I'm from Hartford, Connecticut. Born and raised in Stowe Village. That's where I started out at. So, but like I said, Jamaica has adopted me, Trinidad has adopted me, and the continent of Africa has adopted me. Now, everybody got their smartphones? Y'all got your phones? Yeah, everybody got their phones. Huh? What'd you say?
I don't know if my phone is smart.
Be quite honest, that's a good thought. If you take your phone out for a second and go to Google, and then Google argument leads to, and hit return, y'all gonna get a lot of different things. But if you get the list that I'm thinking of, it's gonna say shooting, stabbing, all kinds of very non-productive things. So what do you see, Denny?
Shooting, breakup, tears and flow.
Death, stabbing, right? Breakup, arguments always lead to breakups. But the problem with arguments that lead to breakups is people end up getting back together. See, arguments that allegedly end breakups don't really end. But anyway, so that was a part of the inspiration for me wanting to do this book, because I witnessed so many arguments and hostile verbal confrontations with people, and even in my family and outside of my family. And I started realizing, listen, people are choosing to be in conflict. 100% of the time, people know conflict is coming and choose to engage as we become adults. Now, when I'm working with young people in elementary school and high school, they haven't developed the ability to handle their emotions. So they're emotion driven. But adults who've been around a while, who've seen things, who've made bad decisions and understand the results of bad decisions, adults are making a conscious decision to engage. The challenge with that is when that adrenaline starts flowing, we're actually getting high. And the more engaged we are, the higher we get. And it feels good. When people are screaming at the top of their lungs, it looks real hostile and violent, but in essence, releasing that adrenaline flow is a high, and it actually feels good. And that's why people continue escalating, because it'd be feeling good to let that loose. And so I'm saying that ultimately we can make better choices. And I identify myself, I identify my expertise as my ability to help people understand why and how to have healthy discussions. Why and how to have healthy discussions. And so my son Joshua back there, I'll be trying to help him understand why and how to have healthy discussions. Right, Josh? Yeah. So so that's what I decided to do. And the other thing for me is when I started studying our history, I was having some real challenges with anger. And I didn't get prepared to deal with what I was reading and coming to understand about our history and what many of us dealt with and went through. You know, one of the most traumatic things I listened to was some audio tapes of those who were enslaved having a discussion about horrible slave owners versus good ones. And I was traumatized by that. And that was a normal discussion with them. But in 2025, we're doing the same thing. Donald Trump or somebody else. And they're all the same. You know, it's all horrible. You know, when we digress to be getting involved in comparisons about who's more horrible, then that's when we have to check ourselves. So anyway, I had to check myself and begin getting myself together. And I started taking notes of things that worked and things that didn't work. And after a while, the things that worked started becoming this book. Things that didn't work, I threw it out. Because my goal was to improve me. The book was written for me to improve me, not for me to improve y'all. If y'all see value in the book and y'all see ways to improve yourselves, that's a beautiful thing. But I have to be honest, I wrote it for me. I did. And it's working for me. It's really working for me. And I wanted to share it, and people could take a look at it, and maybe it can work for them as well. So now, the secret sauce. You heard that term a lot lately, right? Secret sauce. And so the secret sauce with this book revolves around self-responsibility. Every chapter you read, every title you read, every scenario I talk about, self-responsibility is what it all leads back to. So when I talk about minimizing arguments, and when I say arguments are emotion-driven conversations that are not rooted in understanding, but winning or trying to be the most right. When we engage in arguments, in order to not engage in arguments, it's about self-responsibility. To engage in critical thinking, that is questioning, I call that questioning everything, and doing an objective analysis of ourselves and the information received to develop our own understanding. We have to develop our own understanding about everything, but that goes back to self-responsibility. Emotional intelligence, and these are things that are covered in the book. Problem solving based on productive, rational thinking rather than emotional, irrational reactions. Critical thinking, questioning everything. Again, so that we can develop our own understanding. Again, going back to self-responsibility. Conflict resolution begins with interacting with the desire to resolve differences and challenges. Conflict resolution. Josh, you sound like Barry White. You can go in the hall. So It begins with interacting with the desire to resolve differences. So conflict resolution begins and ends with self-responsibility. Y'all getting the rhythm here? Everything keeps coming back to self-responsibility. Participating in life-affirming behavior. Life-affirming behavior is when our thoughts, words, and actions contribute to improving the quality of who we are, which also improves the quality of any environment we're in. As we improve who we are, every environment we walk in is better because of our presence. That's a universal understanding. If we lived and moved just based on that one universal understanding, everything would be better for everybody. But we're taught in this society and set up to tell other people how they should be moving, rather than just focus on knowing that as I improve me, everything around me improves. That's just the absolute truth. I don't have to, well, I won't say that. I will say that that's just the absolute truth. See, and then that's discipline. Again, on my behalf, just now, there's a desire to forge understanding and not division. And so I checked myself, got myself together. And that's what we have, self-responsibility, right? Back to self-responsibility. Ultimately, if we want to improve ourselves in any way, which is what this book can do, we must first take full responsibility for ourselves. Full responsibility for ourselves. This business about they ticked me off, they made me do it, they pushed my buttons, they triggered me, all of this, that's not taking responsibility. That's not taking full responsibility for self. So, in chapter 3 is called Observing. In chapter 3, I learned a lot about, chapter 3, I learned that 4-year-olds are the single most amazing people in the history of the world. If you ever had a chance to sit and watch and observe 4-year-olds, in that chapter, I talk about how 4-year-olds taught me about life. But I'll tell you this one story about in the cafeteria. So I'm looking at all of these 4-year-olds, and this one little 4-year-old young lady, she comes up to me, Mister, Johnny said my hair is ugly. And I was like, first I was really amazed that a 4-year-old cared what Johnny said. Like, this starts at 4? Because, you know, I'm experiencing and witnessing adults worried about what other people think. But I just never thought that a 4-year-old. So I'm like, well, show me who's Johnny. So she brings me over there and she points, she full-fledged snitches. She got a whole finger on Johnny's forehead, literally. That's Johnny. I'm like, all righty then, you don't have to touch him, Johnny. You know, it's okay. So I looked at her and I said, listen, we're going to play a game. It's called Ghost. And this just happened spontaneously in the cafeteria one day. 4-year-olds love games. You want to play a game, they're down. And so she was like, she just lit up. Okay, what are we going to do? I said, anybody who treats us mean or talks to us in a bad way, we're going to act like we don't see them or hear them. She's like, yes. So she's playing Ghost. And there's nothing Johnny can do with her at this point. Literally 10 minutes later, here comes Johnny. Susan won't say anything to me. I was like, Johnny, you're being mean to her, man. You have to be kind. If you're nice, maybe she'll talk to you, but she's not going to talk to you if you're mean. And he was like, okay. And for lunch was over, her and Johnny were back in the mix. Because at the end of the day, 4-year-olds only care about right now. They don't, listen, they only care about now. And if Johnny treats her mean, then that'll remind her we got to play Ghost. But if Johnny's nice, she's not even going to think about Ghost. She's going to respond to Johnny. So I was just amazed by 4-year-olds. And in chapter 3, I deal with that. And I talk about what I learned from observing 4-year-olds. Another thing about 4-year-olds is any adult who says to a 4-year-old, I just told you 5 minutes ago, you have no idea who you're dealing with. 4-year-olds don't care. You may as well speak Mandarin Chinese talking about 5 years ago. That's like talking about 75 years ago to them. They only care about now. That's all that matters. And the other, I'm going to just say this other thing, because I list a lot of things, but I'm going to just say this one other thing that's just so cool about 4-year-olds to me is they are about me. They don't care if you're a cousin, if y'all was friends 2 minutes ago, family, they male, female, because 4-year-olds ain't trying to get nothing, male and female, from each other. You just another little person. And if you violate them, they will whack you in the head with a truck without thinking twice. Because they are serious about, it's about me and only me. And so that is something I thought was amazing, because now that I'm an adult, I realize I'm getting back to being 4. There's a whole lot of things that they exhibit that as an adult that would just make my life so much easier to take on. And so, yeah, I'm super bad. Step back one, kiss myself. About me. I learned that from a 4-year-old. So, chapter 30. In chapter 30, I talk about what I call a degree program. There's a piece in chapter 30 where I talk about the degree program. I created this thing called the degree program, and you have the JPG certificate. Now, the better decisions you make as it relates to tough conversations, the higher your degree. And this, again, is in chapter 30. So the JPG certificate is just plain ghetto. And then there's a list of things that are associated with how you handle things from the just plain ghetto certificate. And then it goes on to the high school diploma, the associate's degree, bachelor's degree, master's degree, doctor's degree. And ultimately, at the doctorate degree level, there's a list of qualities that bring you to that place. So that's in chapter 30. In chapter 31, this is a chapter a couple of people read when, before it was even in book form. I would just say, hey, look at this, let me know what you think. And quite a few people say, you know what, this should have been the first chapter. And I said, well, no, I think I'll leave it as the 31st chapter, because having it as the last chapter, to me, will bring everything in the book together. So chapter 31 is called One Love, or the One Love Experience. But chapter 31 is called One Love. And what I'm doing in chapter 31 is trying to redefine our understanding of love so that it actually works for us and serves our best interests. Because our understanding of love right now, I mean, I'm looking around at how it works and what it's supposed to be and represent. And like I said, I'll be trying to be sexy, and this love that's running around out here is just not sexy. It's just not sexy. So I was thinking about, I can't see how it's working. So what I did in chapter 31 is I redefined love. It's totally redefined. And so you have that compatible vibration and frequency that's intense, that draws people to each other. That's real. And I'm not denying that feeling and that experience and what that represents. What I'm saying is that is not the love part. The love part is over here with what I call the one love experience and the 5 essential questions. So we have the one love. One love is full acceptance of self. 100% full acceptance of self and everything we represent. So when we find ourselves saying, well, that's not me. Everybody knows I don't normally behave that way. Houston, we have a problem. Somebody's in denial. No, everybody just watched you behave that way. Well, that's not my character. Houston, we have a second problem. Everything you exhibit is your character. It's your character revealed. Now, you may not have wanted that aspect of your character revealed. High and Sineva, that's a word I learned from James Brown. High and Sineva, that's you. So no such thing as everybody knows that's not me. Yeah, that's you. And that's not my character. No, yes, it is. You did it. We watched. And in some cases, some of us experienced your character. So we have to fully accept ourselves and all of our bullshit. Just being plain and simple and keeping it a buck. See, because these are the things that I'm saying lead us to safety, security, and personal peace. Ultimately, that's, I think, what is a good place to be in. And so we have to full acceptance of self. This is the tough part. Full acceptance of everybody else. Whatever they represent. Now, a lot of us confuse acceptance with agreement. Because you accept it as it is doesn't mean you agree with it. But when we accept people as they are and deal with the truth associated with who I am, I deal with the truth associated with who I am, and I deal with the truth associated with who everybody else is. Now, I am in the position to make a plan on how to best deal with that reality. Not with who I think they should be, or who they're supposed to be, or who they could have been, should have been, or would have been. See, that's all. Anytime we're engaging in coulda, shoulda, woulda, supposed to, we're not dealing with reality. Y'all, what's that term we use in the religious world? Purgatory? I call it denial purgatory. You just hanging around, talking about what it's supposed to be, and never dealing with the reality of it because you can't move forward from it. Anything in life where we refuse to accept reality, we put ourselves in the position to not be able to move forward from it. So, full acceptance of self, full acceptance of everybody else and who they are and what they represent. And then full acceptance of reality and everything it represents. See, now I'm talking about some, what did Mary J. Blige say, real love? She was talking about the regular love. I'm talking about this different love over here. Now, this is according to Alphonso. This is not necessarily the truth. I have to keep that straight. But this is according to Alphonso. This over here is real love. When we have full acceptance of self, full acceptance of whoever they may be, and full acceptance of reality and everything that encompasses reality. Now we just in the first half of one love. Then we have the 5 essential questions, because this is kind of like Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. This is one love and the 5 essential questions. This is all in chapter 31. One love and the 5 essential questions. So once we get through that one love, that's a minefield for many of us, because it's quite the challenge. But life is so beautiful when you start dealing with that. For real, for real. Life is so much better. So now we got the 5 essential questions. The 5 essential questions. Do I like myself? It sounds simple, but can I just get up, take a shower, stand in the mirror, butt naked, look in the mirror, and not talk about what's wrong with me? See, that's just liking. And the thing is, if we stand in the mirror and don't like ourselves, it doesn't make anything any better. But if we do like ourselves, things can get better. Without a doubt. So this one love is tough. But real love is tough. You know, baby, I love you on the record. That's easy over there. Why love hurts so much? No. We're talking about real love over here, the Mary J. Blige kind. So now we have 5 essential questions. Do I like myself? The second question is, do I love myself? Because again, man, Brian, this is crazy, but everything keeps going back to self-responsibility. Do I love myself? Whatever loving yourself entails, for me, it has to be full acceptance. We talking about one love is full acceptance. When we talking about love and self, again, we back to full acceptance. Full acceptance of me and everything I represent. Not punishing ourselves for misjudging, making a mistake, misstating stuff, all of that stuff. Just not punishing ourselves because we're human. Not using human as a mistake for continuing to make horrible decisions, but loving ourselves is accepting everything we represent and continuing to work to be better. So that's with love. Now, the third question, do I respect myself? Now, anytime I want to start a fight, I can look at somebody and know they don't have no respect for themselves and tell them, you don't have no respect for yourself. And guns and knives and this is on and popping. I'll be ducking and running. Because everybody believes they respect themselves, right? Don't everybody here believe they respect themselves, right? Yeah. It'll be, you can't. And then, I can't run around here telling somebody they don't have no respect for themselves. But I can tell you how you feel when you don't have no respect for yourself. And when I explain it, everybody in here will know the feeling. That don't mean you don't have no respect for yourself. I'm not saying that. I don't want to, put myself in danger. But one of the things that happens is when our self-respect is being challenged, is when we accept something for an extended period of time that makes us uncomfortable. And not from ourselves, but from somebody else. Now, there are many reasons why we accept things that we don't like for an extended period of time. But basically, whenever that is happening, self-respect is being compromised. So now, sometimes we accept things that we don't like for an extended period of time because we don't have the balls to make a change. We at work. This is not a relationship thing. We can be at work when we on a job we don't like. And we will be on that job and raise hell on that job. Not understanding we're in somebody else's house. And totally disrupt the job and create a hostile environment and everything. We know it's not for us. We know we're being mishandled. But rather than have some self-respect and do what's necessary to create change for self so we can be better, we'll just stay and suffer. And then because we're suffering, we want everybody around us at the job to suffer too. Compromising your self-respect. Because you're staying in a situation for an extended period of time that is having an adverse effect on us mentally, physically, and spiritually. When we're dealing with people, we answer the phone. No, we see the phone. And we see who's calling. And we say, and we pick that phone up. We're compromising our self-respect because we're accepting something that we just don't like. An extended period of time is, for me, is 30, 40 seconds. I ain't talking about months and weeks and years. I'm like the 4-year-old. A truck will go flying inside of 5 or 6 seconds. So I'm back to 4. I'm with the 4-year-olds. I'm not accepting it for 10, 15 seconds, let alone months and weeks and years. Some of us, and then we say we've been traumatized and we have trauma. And then we start going to the people who examine our heads and give us medicine and all of this stuff and help us understand, yes, you've been traumatized. And nobody wants to help us understand we've been doing we can have been traumatized, but we participate in traumatizing ourselves in so many ways when we compromise our self-respect. We create triggers that are stored, and anytime, triggers get stored, anybody can pull it. It's some people unwittingly pull those triggers, right? And then all of a sudden, stuff breaking out around them, and they don't know what happened. They looking at you like an alien. What is the problem? So compromising our own self-respect is pretty heavy. So number 3 is, do I respect myself? And number 4 is, do I take full responsibility for me? Can't avoid full responsibility. Am I out here blaming other people for my circumstances and my condition and my unhappiness? Blame and self-responsibility can't function in the same space. Those things don't function in the same space. And when we take full responsibility for ourselves, we don't engage in blame, we engage in plans. We make plans to change that will help us change our circumstances and situation. And we don't ask permission of anyone to make these plans. So self-responsibility. And number 5, finally, is, do I know myself? Well, if the one love experience is in place and I have accepted myself, fully accepted me and everything I represent, and I am willing to fully accept everybody else and what they represent, and then I am fully accepting reality and all that it encompasses. Full acceptance doesn't mean agreement, but it puts us in a position to make a plan to deal with whatever it is so that we can move from it and not have it stored and called a trigger and all of these other things we're taught, these other ways we're taught to identify self-trauma. There's a lot of self-trauma going on around here. According to Alphonso, I don't have no PhD and stuff. I'm just saying, based on what I've learned, there's some self-trauma going on. So, I say that one love and the 5 essential questions is where love is actually located. So when we deal with one love, chapter 131, we deal with one love and the 5 essential questions where love is actually located. Now we have a foundation to move from for any decision about life starts in that place. Those 5 essential questions and full acceptance. Even decisions about the person, we have this wonderful vibrational frequency of compatibility. And like I'm saying, I'm not saying that's not real. I'm saying that's not where the love is. The love is over here with those 5 essential questions. Because see, if we deal with those, we can't even blame somebody. We could actually put ourselves in the position to never have a reason to be upset with a mate or a spouse or my man Scott. Travel. This is my man Scott. We've been buddies for a long time. From North Carolina, when we both worked for Dudley Products years ago, and we've been staying in touch. He now lives in Stanford, and he came up from Stanford to hang out. So my man Scott's in the house. So I'm just saying that one love and the 5 essential questions represent a great foundation for all decisions that need to be made in life, because every decision starts with us. And the best thing in the world for us to be in the right state of mind from a love standpoint and dealing with full acceptance doesn't mean full agreement. It means full acceptance. Because see, whether we accept it or not, it's going to be what it is. It can be snowing, right? I open the door and it's snowing. And this is what many of us are doing. This is a ridiculous example, but this is literally what we're doing, a lot of us. When it comes to people, we open the door and it's snowing. Well, I don't accept that it's snowing, and we just walk out there in our drawers. We just deal with it anyway, because we ain't going to accept that it's snowing. Now, see how wild that sounds? But that's what we're doing in real life with people. Instead of accepting who they are, you know what, it's snowing. Let me just put on the coat. Let me come up with a plan. I'm going to go put on the coat, some under, some clothes, socks, everything. I hate the fact that it's snowing, but I have to come up with a plan for how to deal with this snow, rather than just not accept it and go out there with my drawers on. Now you're out there miserable. We do that with other human beings when we don't want to accept. And it don't matter that I don't agree with the fact that it's snowing, right? Does my agreement matter? No. So if I accept that it's snowing and I come up with a plan on how to deal with the snow, it's best for me and my life. And so when you read that chapter in detail, chapter 31, it'll give you a great foundation for decision making. So I just want to say my plans with this book and everything I'm doing is to transition into the world of public speaking. And I want to go into the high schools, I want to go into the universities, I want to go into businesses, I want to do workshops, I want to do classes, work with youth programs and organizations, corporate conferences. I think that there's room for us all to be better with how we communicate with one another. And so the next part of my journey is to get out here and share this information. And there was some years ago, a long time ago, I was being recruited into community leader, like being a community leader. And I was given the Citizen of the Year and All-Star awards. I was given awards and being groomed to be a community leader. And there was a gentleman, some of you might know him. I know you know him. Earl Shepard. Earl Shepard saw them grooming me to be a community leader. And he pulled me to the side and he said, listen, I'm going to tell you something. And he told me about his experience with the Sand School and other things. And he told me a lot about his experience. But he said, I'm going to tell you two things. He said, when you get out here and start dealing with our people, you always need a sanctuary. You need a place to recover, because we're tough, and we need a lot of work. So even if you have a family, once a month you get a hotel room, and you spend the weekend there in recovery. Because you need a break. And he said the second thing, and this is where I am right today. Never try to get people to do anything. He said, because if you get out here trying to get our people to do something, that is how you end up hating the very people you're trying to help. So what you do is you share the information to the best of your ability, and you let them take it or leave it alone. And you continue sharing. But do not mess with our people out here trying to get anybody to do anything, because we got a lot of work. And so I stand on those two things today. So I don't necessarily have a family, so my little spot, I call it my oasis, where I live, and it's my sanctuary. And every time I go in there, I'm good to go. Sometimes I don't have a problem with sleeping, but I'm so good in there sometimes I'm just up 2, 3, 4 in the morning, walking around thinking about stuff. And when you have free time with yourself, you would be surprised how many things will come to mind. A lot of us are afraid to be with ourselves because it's a natural thing. When you don't have music, you don't have anything going, and it's just you and you, whatever you need to address will come right to your consciousness first. And everything will come in a row of urgency and necessity. And a lot of us don't like dealing with that. So we keep something keeping us from having to deal with that. But that's for us. That's for our own best interest. That's why it's so important that we spend time with ourselves so that we can address those things and come up with plans on how to deal with them rather than avoid it, and then it keeps building up and building up. So I want to be able to even train trainers or or show people what a conscious conversation is about using the 10 guidelines, and facilitate conversations to maintain what a conscious conversation is. Like I've said in the past, I was doing conscious conversations, and having group meetings, and I would always have people that want to challenge what I'm saying, because these 10 guidelines, they're like the one love experience. They ain't no joke. Like it's a lot of stuff you got to deal with yourself. And one of the most simple, none of the guidelines are simple. Let me back that up. One of the guidelines I stress is agreement is not necessary. Disagreement is not what we're trying to achieve. Agreeing to disagree is not what we're trying to achieve. What we're trying to achieve is understanding. The whole purpose for the interaction is so that we can give ourselves a chance to understand each other. That's it. So a sister right next to me said, well, I disagree. So, because she believes that you should be able to disagree. And I said, you're right, you should be able to disagree, but somewhere else. Not here where we're trying to practice having a conscious conversation. So if you want to disagree, then you have to go somewhere where they do that. Oh, so everybody got to agree with you. No, everybody doesn't have to agree with me, but in this conversation, agreement and disagreement is not relevant. Agreeing to disagree, not relevant. We either understand or don't. Because sometimes no matter how wonderful job we do at understanding people or helping people understand us, sometimes they don't get it. And that's obvious because we're all in different places of understanding in this life. So sometimes no matter how well we explain it, people won't understand. And so the goal is to understand or not. So when you get the book and you go over those 10, one of the other ones I'm constantly challenged on is everybody's right. Nobody's wrong in a conscious conversation. And this female pastor told me, she said, that's not possible. I said, in a conscious conversation, it is. I said, let me tell you the extent to how real it is. If we're in a conscious conversation and somebody says 3 + 3 is 6, and the next person says 3 + 3 is 5, both of them right in a conscious conversation. We're not in a math class. So they were like, well, how can they both be right? I said, well, in a conscious conversation, what we do is we ask the person who got 6, how did you arrive at 6? And we ask the person who got 5 and say, how did you arrive at 5? And however they explain it is how they explain it. And we accept it. And we say, okay, well, that does make sense to me, or it doesn't. But we do not argue about right and wrong. Everybody's right in the conscious conversation. One of the reasons why I say everybody's right in the conscious conversation is because we now not trying to win. We don't have to win. We don't have to convince anybody of anything. The ultimate goal is to be at a place where we're sharing information with the desire to understand each other. That's all. And it's possible for us not to understand. So that's what it's about, that's where it's at. And I shall be rolling with the energy and the frequency that takes me on this next part of my journey into this world of sharing this information and letting people make a decision whether or not it makes sense to them. like I said, I thank y'all for hanging out. And I would really, really like for y'all to ask me some questions, if you have any, or even challenge some of the things I've said. Because one of the things I tell everybody all the time is I'm the only one that has to be in the conscious conversation. If somebody else doesn't want to be in it, that doesn't mean I can't be in one. So I'm always, my goal is to always be in a conscious conversation. Yes?
Thank you for your thoughts. I wanted you to really go through chapter 22,
Which is, what's chapter 22?
forgiveness. So I'm a person who's always forgiving people who let me down, but this past week I had a very challenging situation at work, and I am finding it so hard to forgive this woman for what she did. So I want to hear your perspective on it and talk about it a little bit more.
Chapter 22.
What did she say?
Huh?
I didn't understand what she said.
Oh, I'm going to repeat it. I'm going to just try to find it right quick. She wanted me to go over the chapter on forgiveness, or just talk more about forgiveness, and because she's having some challenges at work, and she wanted me to address that. So, in chapter 22, it says, forgiveness is a concept presented as the act of telling someone that they are once again okay with us after something they did or that affected us negatively. So these notes speak about forgiveness that has nothing to do with anyone else. So we're taught forgiveness is about the other person and us forgiving them. And in this book, we're saying forgiveness has nothing to do with anyone else. It's a healthy approach to forgiveness that we fully control and does not depend on any other person. So in the book, I identify and define forgive. When we free ourselves from the personal torture and burden of anger, pain, and disappointment resulting from the unfulfilled expectations of others. See, when most of the time when we call ourselves needing to forgive somebody, it's because they kind of did something that we didn't expect, right? Right? Is that right? They do something we don't expect. Like, yo, now you wanna you can't be disappointed without false expectations, right? And this is the thing that I always say. Is anybody in here meeting all of their expectations of themselves? Raise your hand, whoever is doing that. I'm just curious because I want to know how you do it. Okay, so if we're not meeting all of our expectations of ourselves, then why are we so traumatized when somebody, in many cases who ain't even a brother or sister or family, doesn't meet our expectations of them? And then we're disappointed. And now we're burdened with the traditional approach to forgiveness of forgiving them. And I'm saying, see, the traditional approach of forgiveness struggles to work because the consciousness receives that as letting them slide in the traditional approach of forgiveness. In the Alphonso approach of forgiveness, again, this is Alphonso's approach. This ain't necessarily the right one. This is just mine. Alphonso's approach to forgiveness says, when we free ourselves from the personal torture and burden of anger, pain, and disappointment resulting from the unfulfilled expectations. If I go in the barbershop, I might have the right to expect them to cut my hair right, right? I have the right to expect the barber. His license is on the wall. He's in a professional barber shop. He has professional tools. I sit down, and he gaffles me up. Those were still my expectations. I presented myself with a bunch of circumstances and things that gave me the right to have expectations. But the moment they don't meet our expectations, what is the word I've been using all day? Personal responsibility. It is our personal responsibility. It is our personal responsibility to understand that it's a burden to me to have a negative problem with that. Okay, they didn't meet my expectations. I got to keep it moving. I just won't go to that barber no more, or I won't go to that barber shop no more. Now, when we have these situations on our job, I go back to the One Love experience. When I said One Love is full acceptance of self, full acceptance of everyone else based on who they are, and full acceptance of reality and everything that it entails. So if I take responsibility for myself and I'm involved and engaged in full acceptance, it means I have to make some decisions. One of the reason why we're challenged is because if they would just act right, I don't have to be forced to make tough decisions. Y'all feeling me? So we really want them to just do what we want them to do. Is that personal responsibility? Exactly. So I'm not sure what your situation is, but did that help you a little bit more with chapter 22? A little bit. Yeah, but personal responsibility is important. Any question? Yes.
Are you saying that we should not have expectations of others?
You can, but if they don't meet them, and then you punish yourself because they don't, now that's where the problem is. You can have all the expectations you want, but if they are not met and then you're disappointed, that's your problem. You created that with the expectation. Now, I'm saying again, I'm not saying you don't have a right to expect stuff, but there's responsibility that goes with putting your expectations on other people. And it's personal responsibility. It's not them. And when they don't meet them, it's your responsibility to recognize, okay, they didn't meet it, my bad. I can't expect them to move us this way anymore or whatever. My bad. I gotta move. I gotta continue with a plan to move forward from that. It's your responsibility. Does that make sense? Stan.
After your personal responsibility, I can't hear them. So if they could use that.
Anybody want to help? Dondi here, right? Oh, Melissa. Cool, because right now I'm a team of two. You know how people had their teams and stuff? See, listen, when I get rolling, I'm going to actually have a team. Is the mic on? Okay, so if somebody has a question, can you bring the mic to him, Melissa? I'm a team of two. I'm you know, not these team members. Yes.
Thank you so much. It's a great book. Once I start reading, I can't put it down, really.
Thanks.
But my question is the butterflies. What's the significance of the butterflies on each page?
Okay, so that is one question I will absolutely not answer.
Oh, okay.
And the next question?
Why is that?
Why will I not answer that question? Because there's a reason why they're there. If you have the book, then you have the way to find out why they're there.
It explains it.
So sometimes I don't help people who I know can think. I leave it to people to work it out themselves. That's one that I'll let you work out. But I'm appreciative of the fact that you recognize the butterflies and notice them, and also recognize that they're there for a reason. But it's in the book. Yes.
I'd just like to say I enjoyed the example of the 4-year-old, and you certainly made my 76 years a lot easier from now on, so I'm going to be 4. That's all I can say.
Anybody else? You got a question, Kay? You got a question? Yeah. Melissa, right here.
I didn't see who that person was.
Right here.
I'm sorry.
Oh, somebody back there got a question? Yeah. There you go.
Raise your hand. I don't even know.
Yeah, raise your hand, Kay. So she. Oh, I thought you had a question. Oh, who else had a question? Come on now. Challenge me. That's what I'm here for. We're here to learn from each other.
When you were talking about your journey, like what you plan on doing going forward,
Yeah.
regarding like the public speaking, like some of the going into the universities, the schools, the trainings. One of the things that got me. One of the things that got me was when you talked about like maybe doing like a training trainers, and I was just wondering is this something that you've already started to put together, or this is something that you'll, down the road you're looking at?
This is something that I'm putting together now. I didn't actually start, but this is down the road. When I was in Trinidad, down the road, we're gonna walk down the road. Down the road in Trinidad meant you was gonna be walking for like 90 minutes. I didn't know that, and my legs turned into spaghetti so fast. And I'm talking about you got 60, 70, 80-year-old men walking down the road, no problem. And I thought I needed to go to the hospital. But anyway, when you said that, that just reminded me of that experience down the road in Trinidad. If somebody tell you we're gonna walk down the road, you get ready, make sure you got some comfortable shoes, and you ready. So down the road to me is, I'm talking like soon as possible. Tomorrow, next week, whoever is interested in having me, I'm ready to rock and roll. This book has been literally like people who know, this book has been almost a 10-year journey, and I'm ready to rock and roll at this point. Yes, so down the road as soon as possible for me. Okay. I'm ready to rock and roll. Yes.
Great.
Anybody have any questions? Come on now. Yes. And you can make a comment too. You don't necessarily have to ask a question.
I don't know if I really have a question. I'm going to say that my personal road on communication and my issues, that I've learned a lot of tips, just knowing while you've been working on this book, learning little tips and things. But the hardest thing that I feel like I have to accept is the fact that being a woman, being, part of a family with so many difficult personalities, and then learning, you do have to be quiet and not, engage in certain things with folks. But when it's like the people that are closest to you, and my personal beliefs before even meeting you and even, getting the information that I've gotten from the universe, you being one of those people, is that I have always had this Gandhi concept with love is supposed to be for everyone. You accept everybody for who they are, and you're supposed to learn how to still be a community with people even though they have all of the differences. But then learning that some of those people, even the closest ones to you, having to even holding that space and not knowing if that space will have to be for longer than years, or maybe it never comes and then they die or something like that. So that's just kind of my comment with just the reality of love, even accepting it if it needs to be. You have to have that separation, because sometimes even if you're being that good that not quote unquote good person, the person that's able to communicate consciously or whatever, and then they can't. And then you have to unburden yourself by being around somebody that's constantly attacking you or hurting you. The reality kind of, it's bothersome to me on a personal level, but it is reality. So in what you said, love is really your self-love. And you are your one world, even though you're part of a world, if that makes kind of what I'm saying makes sense. There you go.
Let me tell you what the 4-year-olds taught me. Them 4-year-olds taught me that don't take discomfort from another mother for another second. I am the only one that's going to work in my best interest. Nobody else is. It doesn't matter how close I want to identify myself to them, how much I think I care for them. Let's just think about it. Close to them, I care for them, I love them, they're my family, they're my friends, they're my best friend, they're my lover, they're my wife, my husband. The 4-year-olds taught me, F that, it's about me. Now I gotta move based on what works for me. Because I don't know where I am planned in the lives of all of them people. But I know in my life, step back, want to kiss myself. It's about me. Y'all better learn from these 4-year-olds. So I understand, because that's the traditional thought process. It's my family. It's my brother. I can't cut my brother off. I can't cut my aunt. My grandmother, she took care of me. If Granny is contributing to my misery and that's the best she can do, I'm out. It's about me now. A lot of people, I understand, that's not sexy. But according to my definition of sexy, that's real sexy. When I'm moving in my best interest, because Granny is moving in hers. And all my friends and family and loved ones and the best friends and everybody I care about, they're all moving in their own best interests. So it's my responsibility to move in mine. And I can't blame them for me not being comfortable. It's like I was saying earlier with forgiveness. It's like standing in the middle of a football field on a 50-yard line. There's 50,000 people, and you just might check. 1 second. Listen, look. If everybody could just do this, I would be okay. That's a setup for misery. Life, just, no. Everybody is doing what works for them, even if they don't know it. See, but what I learned from the 4-year-old is I'm going to know it. I'm not going to haphazardly do what's best for me and not know what I'm doing. No, I'm first. Granny is a beautiful thing. I thank you for teaching me how to iron. But if Granny is, you messing with misery and trying to push it on me, I'm out. We cool, but I'm out. I learned a lot from the 4-year-olds. Next thought, anybody else? Yeah.
Well, following up on what you just said, is that communication?
Absolutely.
Because communication should mean at least 2 people.
No.
So one can't just cut off and then say that's communication in my book.
Yeah. What you said is just so beautiful, because that's what we're taught. That's what we're taught communication is you try to communicate no matter what. If they're hanging up in your face, you try to communicate. With the 4-year-old, see, I'm blaming the 4-year-olds because I learned so much from them. It's so serious. This is no joke with these 4-year-olds. Communication is not a two-way street. No. Communication is effective or it's not. But it starts and ends with me. So, for instance, if I'm interacting with a person and I'm involved in what I call conscious conversations all the time, that's my desire, that's the space I choose to be in. And I'm interacting with somebody who absolutely refuses to want to be in a conscious conversation, who wants to be involved in resolving issues, who want to be involved in life-affirming behavior, which is behavior that contributes to improving the quality of who I am, which in turn improves the quality of every environment I'm in simply because of my presence. If I'm not interacting with somebody who's interested in communicating in a way that is life-affirming, then I'm not forcing, I talked earlier, I'm not forcing myself on anybody. Now, communication can be two-way, it can be three-way, it can be all of us way right now. How we're in here, we're communicating, we talking, interacting, answering, asking questions, making comments. This is communication, which is beautiful. But no, I would never encourage people to force themselves on somebody in an attempt to communicate. If people don't want to communicate, like I literally said it earlier, Earl Shepherd told me, never try to get anybody to do anything, ever. Because you'll end up hating the very person you're trying to help. You share the information, y'all can exchange, you can think about it, you can go back and forth about it, whatever, but you leave it. Soon as you start trying to get people to do stuff, then the resentment starts seeping in when they're not doing it like you want them to do it, or the way you like, I just spent 90 minutes with them and they walked away and did the same exact thing. Now you got a problem. Now you got an attitude with them and so forth and so on. And the traditional approach to communication, here we go. So, yeah, communication is between two or could be between two or more people. The most important communication is me. Step back, want to kiss myself. It's about me. Yes. Microphone.
I had a question. Alphonso?
Yeah.
Oh, she'll be right back over here.
Yeah.
Just following up on what you just said.
Yes.
You know we're in a time of war, right? We're in a time of wars all over the world.
I understand what you're saying.
How are we going to solve those issues if the two sides don't get together and come up with some solution?
Right.
Right now, we are all suffering because of all these wars all over the world.
Right. Now,
how do we get out of that?
So now this is a great question. Anthony, I went to high school with that brother right there. I appreciate you coming through, man. Thanks a lot. Have a good night. I'm heading. I'm gonna go back to the 4-year-old again. I'm going back to the 4-year-old. Are you aware of any 4-year-olds that are worried about wars? I'm just wondering. Now, I'm rocking with the 4-year-olds. I can't worry about stuff I have no control over. Right now, you know, the bomb dropping here, now I got to make some decisions. But a bunch of people who are making decisions to be at war and be in conflict and dropping bombs on each other and all that kind of stuff, I'm not taking on all of that. I'm just saying me. I understand people who are concerned and who wake up every morning worried about that stuff. But I would never take on any of those things. I'm not even taking on the dude that ran out of gas on Main Street. I'm like, if I can help him, I help him. And if I can't, I can't. But the things I have no control over, I'm not going to burden myself with it. I'm not involved in the decision-making process for that stuff. Now, if the point is how important communication is, I understand that. But the practical level of communication that I identify with and that I can deal with is just like the 4-year-old. Listen, where are the peaches? That's my communication. And that's mine. And what are we going to do right now? How can I make myself better? How can I make a contribution right here, right now? This is where I can make a difference. I wrote a book. Took me 10 years to write it. I feel like I can make a contribution and make a difference as it relates to communication. That's what I can control. That's what I'm rocking with. But these cats that want to drop bombs and stuff on each other and wars and hi Stephanie, I wouldn't burden myself. I'm not burdening myself with that. Have no control over it. Any next question? Huh?
Right.
Hold it. Where the mic? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I got you after. She's been waiting since her.
Right where the mic is, yeah.
You use the word reality a lot. Can you
Yeah.
give us a definition of what reality is to you?
Reality is what is.
Is what is.
Right now, we in reality.
Okay.
It's what is. It is what is. Reality is not what is not. Reality is not what should be, what could be, what's supposed to be. Reality is what is. What is. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. Yes.
I just want to piggyback on the last question from Mrs. Perry.
Yeah.
When she talked about, if we don't communicate or if people aren't communicating, how are we going to solve the issues without, bombing each other?
Right.
And you're saying that, you're retrieving back to the 4-year-old. And so I understand your point because that's your level of acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
But is that really reality? Is that really reality in saying I'm going to retrieve back to that 4-year-old? Or what kind of examples or what kind of thoughts I can give, perspective I can give to my audience to say, like, this is maybe how you can deal with this situation. So I don't think that she's saying that she doesn't accept your reality. She's just asking, that's my opinion, Nora. She's asking, what should we be doing? And shouldn't these people that are not communicating with each other, that are causing war and conflict in our world, shouldn't they be coming to the table and talking to each other and communicating better? So I know you're retrieving back to the 4-year-old, but what else can you draw from that besides what the 4-year-old is saying?
Hey, Wendy, you can come on up here and sit down. There's a seat right here. How you doing? All right. Okay, so I kind of went through it earlier when I talked about one love and the five essential questions. And so what I said is one love is full acceptance. Full acceptance of self, full acceptance of others as they are, and full acceptance of reality and everything it entails. So what I'm saying, I'm in full acceptance of wars and bombs being dropped, especially in areas where I have no control over. So I've decided specifically to say, and when I say go back to the 4-year-olds, let me explain what I mean when I say that. When I say go back to the 4-year-olds, the 4-year-olds have taught me that it's about me. It's not about anybody else. It's about me. And now everything extends from that. I take full responsibility for me and how I choose to handle these situations. Now, I'm aware of the bombs and the wars, all of that stuff. But what I chose to do, which is right on point with what she's saying, I chose to focus on how we can better communicate with each other. That's what this book is all about. So as an individual, based on what I have control over and what I can do, I chose to write a book, create what I identify as my area of expertise, which is helping people understand how to have these productive conversations, which is really addressing the very point she's making. But I'm not in touch with the Russian president, the United States president, the guy in charge of Israel. I'm not in touch with those people to share my thoughts about how we can be better communicators. But among those of us who are right in my reality and my presence where I could do something about it, that's why I chose to put in the work, and say, okay, I'll do that. Yes, Mr. Perry.
Yes, I think I understand what you're saying, because you're trying to provide for us how to protect ourselves, because you have limitations. Mm-hmm. And once you recognize those limitations, you move forward. Like Brother Shepherd told you, mm-hmm. He's been in this community, and he sees if you try to get in your mind what you think is the best for everybody, you'll knock yourself out, because you can't do it. You cannot do it. When it comes to the communicating, and there's wars and all kind of poor leadership, etc., for ourselves, you accept the fact that's what it is. You accept it. You don't have to agree with it, but you accept it. Once you accept it, now you can say, now, can I remediate? How do I remediate if you want to go that far? Then the only way you can do that is maybe you inject yourselves by even a small group of people who are going to now go out to get people to vote to make the change. It's a complex thing, but you have to accept the reality that that's what it is. That's the reality. That's what it is. Now, you don't agree with it, but you accept it. And you can move in incremental ways, such as you make sure that you write your little editorial to your newspaper, you call up, you talk if there are conversations, or even the fact that you have people to rally to demonstrate. That's the little incremental change that you can make. But you have to accept the reality, and the reality is what you see. I hear what you're saying. What my sister here said earlier, now when it comes to a group dynamics, it's a different situation, because you are now selected by Brother Shepherd to be a leader, and you see this person within the community who's acting like the 4-year-old, but is not a 4-year-old. And it's disrupting that group that you're in. Her environment, her job environment is being disrupted by this one person. So now, even though you accept the person's behavior, that person you can remove yourself, but the toxicity is still on the job. And what do we do about that? I think that's what I'm hearing.
Have the personal responsibility and courage and faith in self,
yes,
to make a move. Because you're going to lose. As long as you can't accept the reality of that environment and everything it represents and still move in the way that best serves you. See, again, I just spoke to it earlier. We don't want to make that tough decision. We don't want to take responsibility for ourselves. If they would just change. It's only one person that's creating a toxic environment. If they would just change, my life would be so much better. And I'm saying that approach is what keeps so many of us miserable.
Yeah.
Because people are doing what's in their best interest. They're never going to do what's in your best interest. They always do. That's why it might sound like I'm going back to a 4-year-old and not explaining myself, but no.
I got you.
The 4-year-old is one who is clear who it's about. And that is my responsibility. I have to be clear that it's about me. I sometimes and it sounds selfish, but the way we're taught what selfish is, that's not sexy. That's not sexy at all. You can take all kind of abuse from people, and people will honor you and worship you and just pat you on the back, and soon as you say, bump that, it's about me, then they call you selfish. No, that's not selfish. That's called life-affirming behavior, where I continue to improve the quality of me, and everybody else benefits in spite of what they're doing and what they're not doing. And I'm not doing it for their benefit. I'm doing it for me, but they just happen to benefit. They can't help it. They're going to benefit. Any more thoughts, questions? Oh. Anybody? Okay, well, listen. Yeah.
Time out to your 10 years to complete this masterpiece and for sharing it with the community first. It is very valuable. It has been extremely valuable to me. Alphonso, no, I face a lot of these things on a daily basis, and I do have to constantly check myself and make sure that I am doing self-affirming actions and leading in a way where I am affirming myself first so that I can be a benefit to others. So, yes, I do thank you. I do thank you. Yeah, and he laughing at. Don't be laughing at me.
No. I'm just thinking. I was saying it's not. And the most powerful thing is, I'm sure some of y'all understand me, but them 4-year-olds taught me that it is about me
and not others. Nobody else.
Right. And I don't have any control over other people. And the only person I have control over is me. And like Earl Shepherd said, never try to get anybody to do anything. Share the information. They can take it or leave it.
Keep it moving.
And you continue sharing the information, and then they can take it or leave it, and you continue sharing. Any other questions or thoughts? Well, I want to say this if everybody else is done. I want to say this. A lot of some of the things that I presented, the 10 guidelines are very challenging. One Love and the 5 essential questions are extremely challenging. And a lot of these things are challenging and might be kind of tough for us. But life is so much better when we accept the challenge and start moving in a direction where we have some self-responsibility and self-respect. Because in this society and setup, I would go as far as to say, I think it's very difficult to live in this society and setup and not have found ourselves in the position where we said, if they would just act right. Come on, everybody in here done said that at some point, right? My life, all they got to do is, anytime we hear ourselves, well, all they got to do is, if they would just act right. Listen, I'm just saying, all they got to do, you all in the purgatory, because that ain't real. Because ultimately, all you got to do is accept reality, make a plan, and make a decision. It ain't got nothing to do with them. Forgiveness has nothing to do with anybody else. Forgiveness is all about me. It's about me maintaining my personal health and well-being and lifting the burden of anger and refusing to create another trigger. Now, this is according to Alphonso. This ain't necessarily the truth. I gotta keep saying that because I don't have no major degrees and stuff. I ain't trying to claim to be no expert, no psychologist, all that stuff. But according to Alphonso, I'm sorry. But according to Alphonso, the closer we get to ourselves, the better life will be. The more we go inside for understanding this existence, the better our lives will be. And the more we make it about me, the better our lives will be. So many of us are burdened by our commitments and the responsibilities to other people and don't have no responsibility for ourselves. I gave them, I went out, it took me 3 hours to pick out that gift and it cost me $250. And when I went to the house, they gave me an apple. I'm just saying, when we are in that energy of expectations, it never works out in our best interest if we can't accept the reality of the person. I went to their house. If you complaining about somebody giving you a 30-cent apple and you spent $250 on their gift, then you number one, you're not accepting the reality of who they are. And number two, you're just traumatizing yourself. And so you're going to keep talking about that until that becomes a trigger. Now that's stored as a trigger. So as soon as you buy another gift and somebody else shoots you a 30-cent pair, all hell's breaking loose in the house. Do y'all understand where I'm coming from? So I think it's okay, and it's a beautiful thing for it to be about me. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Isn't it a balancing act when you're saying you got to make sure you're okay before you can serve someone else? But isn't it a balancing act because people pick up on that and they do start saying, I think he's a self-centered person or a selfish person. And that has to affect everyone.
Right.
It affects you. Even though you know and you believe I need to make this about me. Still you have those emotions about the family.
Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying. What you're sharing with me is the traditional approach to life. And I'm saying there's another approach. That's not the traditional approach. That's so much more self-preserving and healthy for us. So now, you said something that is so important. People who try to live while at the same time being worried about how other people feel about their decisions about them moving in their own best interests will always be miserable. You can't have a healthy life worried about what others think about decisions you made about what's best for you. Because this is the interesting thing, right? Everybody who wants you to do something different, none of them would let you run their life. None of them would say, hey, come on over here and run mine. But we feel like, you know, we should be able to run other people's lives, or we can't move in our own best interest because we worried about what they think. Man, I could care less. This is why I don't care. I'm going back to the 4-year-olds. The 4-year-olds have zero care about somebody calling them selfish. It's my truck, and if you touch it, even if I'm playing over here, I'm hitting you in the head with a brick. This it's about me. I gotta operate in my own best interest. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Comment.
Yes.
I understand where you're coming from.
Mhm.
I hear you, and in some ways I agree. In some ways I'm a little bit shaky because when I think of a 4-year-old, I think of somebody who is extremely blunt, who says what they want and how they feel. However, I have not known a 4-year-old to this day that does not lacks some semblance of empathy. And I've heard you speak a lot about the feeling of, you know, getting what you want and focusing on you, which I think is very important. But I haven't heard you speak so much about the balancing act of having that raw empathy that the 4-year-old has. So how does that enter into like your space?
Cool. Great question. Again, when observing 4-year-olds, what many of us identify as empathy is momentary friendship until you get it twisted, until you violate me or mine. And so I'm not saying they don't enjoy each other's company, but I'm saying, based on what I watch, they love each other and they have a wonderful time and they interact in wonderful ways until they feel violated. And then they'll get that corrected as soon as possible. And so the teacher brings me a 4-year-old and says, she punched Johnny, and I want you to tell her to keep her hands to herself and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And so I looked at her and I said, did you punch Johnny? And she said, yes. But I knew she was going to say, if she punched Johnny, she was going to say yes. If she didn't punch Johnny, she would say no. But the beautiful thing about 4-year-olds, if it's about them being violated and protecting theirs, they'll let you know in a minute. Yes, I did hit him with a truck. So she said yes. I said, okay. Why did you punch Johnny? Do you know the teacher said, no. We're not going to be doing that. We're not doing that. You need to let her know she should keep her hands to herself. Now, because I'm in the system, she said, I'll just go to Officer so-and-so. He'll handle it. And she snatched her away from me. Now, I will never teach a 3 or 4-year-old not to defend themselves. And I will never not ask them, why did they smack Johnny in the head with the truck? I'm going to ask you, why did you smack Johnny in the head with the truck? And they're going to tell me why. And we can have a conversation, but I'm never you're not going to train me to teach them not to defend themselves. It's not happening. That's the same as trying to train me today not to defend myself. The difference between me and 4-year-olds is I've been contaminated with years and years and years of thinking about how what I do might affect somebody else. And even though I've been devastated and hurt, what I do in retaliation could potentially adversely affect me and all this other stuff. 4-year-olds don't engage in all that. You violated me, you got hit with a truck. Now, and they'll be friends 2 minutes later. 2. And so I think I presented balance. I think that they do demonstrate a lot of empathy and compassion and ability to work with others until you violate them. So, I mean, that's, and then the other thing that I will say, just for the purpose of this setup and even the book and the direction that I'm heading in, I never, ever, ever speak with the desire to get somebody to agree with me. I just share it, and people can take it or leave it, and it's cool. Because, we all from so many different places and realities and backgrounds. And it's just so wild to get out here and think that you believe everybody's supposed to agree with you. That's not humanly real. That's just unnatural. I say our mind is like a finger, the details in the fingerprint. It's a reason why we see things differently. To be honest, if we truly understood each other and human behavior, we would rarely expect somebody to agree with us. Because we know we all coming from different places. It's ridiculous for me to expect my brother to agree with me because we was raised in the same house. Now, what make you think somebody out that house gonna be running around agreeing with you? You know what I'm saying? It's just, these things are not real that we have been kind of encouraged to embrace. But, yeah. Any more thoughts and questions? Yes, sir.
I hope you call another session like this about a month from now, after everyone had an opportunity to read your book, and then we have more insight on a discussion.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah. In a month or so, we'll do it again. And then we can really get into the book and talk about some of the stuff in it. Yes. Hold it. Wait. Oh.
Whatever happened to Johnny?
Who?
The 4-year-old.
Oh, yeah, I told you.
Whatever happened?
Yeah, see, what happened was she played Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then about 10 minutes later, Johnny came running up to me saying she wouldn't speak to him. And I said, well, if you're nice, then maybe she'll speak to you. But I had already told her that as long as he's unkind and being mean, we're going to play Ghost and act like we don't see or hear him. And so 10 minutes later, he came, because she had just got through pointing at his forehead, snitching, full snitch mode. It's him. And then I taught her about the game Ghost. Now Johnny came complaining that she wouldn't speak to him. And I said, when you're kind, she'll speak to you. And so and then I never heard from them again. They were fine. And as you know, I think more adults need to play Ghost. More adults, and I don't mean for the sake of using it as a tool and in an attempt to be antagonistic, in an attempt to adversely affect somebody else. But I'm also saying that if there's no headway, you can't force yourself on people. You have to keep it moving and say, okay. And it's okay to keep it moving, because what did them 4-year-olds teach me? About me. At all times. Not because of this, but because of the reality of humans. Because it's about you at all times. We've been taught not to admit it because that sounds selfish. Well, no, I donate to the Girl Scouts every year. I buy $1,000 worth of cookies every year. And I'm just, Houston, we have a problem. Somebody's in denial. You didn't do that for them, you did it for you. And if we have a conversation, we can find it. But we don't have to have a conversation because you already know. Stop it. We do everything because we think it's in our best interest, even when we allegedly doing something for somebody else. That's just something to think about. Yes. Hold it, the mic. All right, I got one more question after her, and then this is just a really lot of good food over there. Some rice and peas, some baked chicken, there's some yellow rice, there's some macaroni, the most awesome macaroni and cheese in the history of the world, some cabbage. So a couple, this question and one more, and then we're gonna shut it down. And then if y'all need me to sell some books, sign a book or something, I'll do that. Yes.
Okay, so I have just a comment.
You have what?
A comment, not
Yes,
a question. So this whole concept is pretty much, you know, from what we've been taught, we have to go through like a whole mental like cleansing and purifying our thoughts to think this way, you know, because we were taught to like just give and, you know, being in certain religions and stuff like that, we were taught to be like, you know, like docile and stuff like that. So I just want to put that out there, that it's a process for a lot of humans, you know. So
Yeah, it's definitely a process.
yeah.
It's definitely a process. The baby has a question.
Should I play the game Ghost?
When somebody is being mean and unkind to you, absolutely. You know how to play?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know how to play Ghost.
There you go. Yeah. Anybody else? Hey, yeah, we can shut it down right there. So listen, I'm gonna if somebody want me to sign their book, I'll do that. But please go and enjoy some of that food over there. Thank you very much. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Nice job.
I got your
Sell this for a bunch of money.
Still continue that question that I asked you about reality.
Yeah.
But I'm going to throw in AI.
Yes.
Well, I hope you sell thousands.
Yeah, we are.
You know what I mean? And I think that there's
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't walk in the door and you said, oh.